Hello everyone, my name is Sofia Lekka Angelopoulou, Editor-in-Chief of Designboom magazine, and I'm very happy to welcome a panel of design experts for a discussion around design made in Dubai and the new codes of its flourishing design landscape. We have here Majid Bastaki, award-winning architectural photographer, architect and product designer, Lina, Ghalib, product and furniture designer, Elias Hage, co-founder of multidisciplinary studio Karim+Elias, Khulood, Khoory, project and event director of Dubai Culture, and Mette, Degn-Christensen, director of downtown design. Thank you all for being here. And I wanted to start with an overview of the creative landscape of Dubai since you first started your practices or your professional activities and until now, and maybe get your view on how you've seen the city evolve creatively since then. I don't know who wants to start.
Thank you so much for having us, and it's a pleasure to be at Maison&Objet. So just to talk about the city of Dubai, we've really seen that over the past few years, a great, increase in design activities, initiatives, and different platforms that are showcasing design talents. We celebrated the 10th year of Dubai Design Week this year, which is a great milestone, but I think design started, much in it before that. And we have many design programs, institutes. We have seen design districts also develop in the city, which I think, from an infrastructure point of view, from support to the talent, but as well as activations, have really helped drive and grow the design industry in the city of Dubai. And then, of course, from the support of government, we've seen initiatives, strategies that have been put in place to support design's growth. So this is from, I think, my overview, but I believe as practitioners and designers, there's a lot more kind of smaller narratives and stories that would probably, I think, be a bit more interesting to hear from our colleagues.
I think mainly there's been a significant move towards sustainability in general. I believe all over the world, but in Dubai, it's become more of sustainability of culture as well as sustainability regarding the environment. And I think over the past 10 years, or the creative scene in Dubai in general has grown so much to accommodate, to be able to enrich our culture and to be able to celebrate the culture and the UAE in general, and not to lose touch or lose base with our roots. And I think the word sustainability kind of always comes from that as well, to be able to maybe go back to our roots, to understand how we can move forward in a modern way or method, and to actually become sustainably, environment sustainable.
Yeah, I think it's really important to say that and to build on what Lina was saying. So I come from a studio that works excessively with geo-heritage material or natural material, and I've seen that tremendously change in the last 2 years. So I moved to Dubai 2 years ago, and since then, you see people working with natural material in such an interesting way, whether it's through passive technologies, active technologies, whether it's date form or plywood, or whether it's so many different things. Us alone, we've worked with earth, and we've seen other studios complement our design direction and also take that forward, which makes us quite happy because we want to see that culture excel in similar or in different ways, but on a much larger landscape.
Yeah, as my colleague mentioned, everyone in Dubai, they want to relate to the culture in like different aspects. As Elias want to relate to the culture with the earthy materials, the sands of Dubai, the dunes of Dubai, Lina from the palms of Dubai, and me in my studio, I want to relate it with the narratives of Dubai, maybe the different old doors of Dubai or the different trees of Dubai. And I always want to relate like the narratives that we find in Dubai to the products that I create in the studio.
Yeah, I think I want to just add from a platform point of view. You talked a bit, Khulood, about what you do at Dubai Culture, Dubai Design Week, Downtown Design, what we do to sort of provide an engine for designers, not just to start, but also continue their journey. So we talk about sustainable materials. Both of you are good examples of having made brands, commercially viable products, services from that. And I think in our scene in Dubai, we're starting to see not just up-and-coming talent, but really we're seeing that go further. So what we saw 10 years ago, we're really seeing as established studios now.
And I think there's a lot of support in terms of production as well. So there's a very large focus on trying to manufacture everything in-house. And by in-house, I mean the UAE in general. And to take opportunities of the craftsmanship and the fabricators that already exist in the UAE and challenging them further with our own vision. And I think that's also another level of sustainability and another level of support is to be able to create platforms, societies, and communities that can connect designers together, designers and fabricators together. So we have a platform in the UAE called Make, where a lot of different fabricators are enlisted on there and with a description of what they can do. And then designers can just log on, and it's a free page where they can see how they can make what they want to make, or how they can design things that can be fabricated solely in the UAE. And I think that's there's more room for growth in terms of different industries, in terms of manufacturing, but definitely there's a lot more pressure to be the best and to kind of make sure that we are doing everything in-house mainly and self-sufficient.
Yeah, I mean, Dubai is also known for this sort of approach of superlatives, or you know, this idea of like world's first or world's largest, and you have this big high-tech innovation happening, but at the same time there is also this very heritage-focused narratives that are coming to the surface more and more. And I was wondering if you can comment a little bit on the role that technology plays and how these two intertwine, maybe a little bit towards what you were talking about with the methodology or the experts.
So in my case, we take such a raw material, which is the palm tree's branches. And the UAE's culture, they used to take these branches in their raw form and build houses from them called arish. If I hadn't encountered that story, or if I hadn't learned about that heritage, I wouldn't have understood the importance or the significance of the branch itself. I wouldn't have further done research to, like you're saying, technology plays a very important role for you to understand, to test the material in modern labs, to understand its strength, its properties, what it can handle, and to start creating products from it or applications in interior. So you're taking a very important role in history, something that was very significant for people to create a shelter, and you're applying it in a modern method using innovation, using modern tools, modern fabrication to create things for everyday use today. And I think that's very important, you know.
No, I just wanted to very quickly add that for us, we're used to it. We're based in Dubai, but it's a very progressive place, a super dynamic market. There's always opportunity. There's always, I think, an openness for new things. And that creates a lot of opportunity if we grab it and run with it. So when we have these new materials, how many years now, Lina? 3 years are you in? 4? That's still incredible when you think it's a brand new material, right? Yeah, so I think that's something to be said about. It's a very different place. And now the world is sort of looking at the UAE, Dubai as a hub to the wider Middle East. It's a very dynamic place. You know, we see things change in 6 months. So I think that creates a lot of opportunity.
I think as well, we look at technology as an enabler to a lot of the design practices and as a tool. But I think other than technology, it's very much the concept of innovation. And I think that's where we've seen that designers are, you know, looking at local resources to innovate new materials, to innovate production styles and approach. And I think innovation doesn't always mean high tech. I think what, you know, Elias and Karim are doing is very innovative, but it's it's like a many years old practice that, you know, is perhaps just looking at how that, taking things that have been done in the past, but applying it to modern challenges, new applications. And I think that's innovative in itself. And I think Dubai as a city really tries to, you know, think about how we can be sustainable, how we can, you know, use design as a tool to, you know, solve challenges rather than, you know, just produce items. And I think maybe you want to speak a bit about, you know, the rammed earth. I think it's a great example of, you know, something that doesn't necessarily seem so high tech, but is very innovative in its approach as well.
Thank you for that. And yes, I do agree, and I wanted to build on that as well, because for us, in our studio, we revived an ancient technique which is actually 10,000 years old, where we took a material with meaning, which is desert sand, and we paired it with rammed earth by hand pressing sand and preserving the entire craft of how it's done. For us, innovation meant reinvention, so reimagining how the material was used and trying to apply it to a new vernacular. How people live today, how they experience the earth, how they experience art, and ultimately, how they would experience spaces. Because our long-term mission is to take that innovation as reinvention, but push it to the scale of inhabiting rammed earth spaces, being part of the desert, understanding that heritage can also be geo-heritage, and addressing that through material on such a big scale could have such an innovative impact.
Yeah, adding to that, yani, in my studio, I always try to push like the patterns or the last product that I've launched, which is here in the UAE Oasis. It's Bunajma, the console table. I always try to add the innovation part, which is like integrating like the old materials that we use or the old patterns that we have into like a modern look with a modern feel and something that looks very clean as well. Because people always, when they remember those patterns, they remember them where they are very weathered, very rusty, very old materials. But for us in the studio, we always try to push those old memories or those old narratives into a modern, something that's very clean, something that can compete with the international level of design or products.
And talking about your project actually and the referencing of an urban element that is very nostalgic, but also referential to the Arab South Asian world, the metal doors. I was wondering if you can also maybe pinpoint some other heritage or vernacular elements that are sort of recognizable from the area's past, and how designers or you personally are using that to sort of bring in the heritage element, but also creating something that caters to the needs of the present and the future.
Yeah, Dubai and the UAE is very rich with its like cultural or the if we can say like the cultural elements or the rich history of Dubai. And if we go to any neighborhood or any city in the UAE and Dubai, you will find like a lot of narratives that you can find and create products through them. Like even the palm trees, we can create multiple things from palms, like the PlyPalm, which Lina, Ghalib did, or the palm truck that I've used into my product. And I believe that in the urban level of design, you can take any sector of design, and every designer, if they look at a certain element, they can recreate it in a different aspect. If we had one palm tree, everyone will look at it in a different point of view, and they will apply their designs, their concepts, their philosophies into it in a different product and different shape and form. And that will yani, as we can see, like in the palms, in the past maybe 10 years, everyone trying to do something related to the palm, and everyone is creating something that's more beautiful than the other, and everyone's competing with it.
I think it's not just in terms of design application or taking a narrative and applying it as a story. I think it's also important to understand maybe the Emirati people in general, how they live on a day-to-day life, what are the products they use, what are the actual cultural elements when they meet with people. For example, I'm sure a lot of people are aware of the Majlis setting, which is the setting of how they sit together when they are in a congregation or they are meeting together, or formally or informally. When you start to understand someone's culture or a country's culture on a day-to-day life, you start to understand what are their needs, what are the things culturally that can make their life a little bit more easier, more efficient, how they like to use, for example, a product called the Midkhan, which is an incense burner. It's something that's very, it's very rooted in the UAE or in the GCC in general. And once you start to understand the culture is not something that's just history, or it's not something that we're just always going back to. It's something that is in our day-to-day lives, and it's something that if you constantly work on to enhance, not just to use as a story or as a reference, this will ensure that the design industry will keep on flourishing and growing in the UAE.
Any comments about extracting heritage elements and applying them to your practice?
Yeah, building on what we said before, and what I'll probably keep building on as well, is just, yeah, it's taking a natural material. It's because we have this very strong philosophy at our studio where it's not what you see, but it's how you see it. So taking a mundane material of desert sand, which was the most abundant natural material in the UAE, and showcasing it in a very different way, or celebrating it as an art form, or through architecture, or through design, was something we felt was so important to remind people of the landscape, be it a visitor or be it a local, and elevate that as an experience, as a full experience of just such a basic material.
And I think the most beautiful thing about your work is that you are solely focused on the story behind the material itself. So you're free to play with the organic forms or the shapes, and it's more of the story is rooted in the process. It's not the shape, it's not the design. It's not something that you will see or understand as soon as you see maybe the material. You'd have to get in and do a little bit more research to understand it. And I think that's beautiful when the story might sometimes be so simple, but it's really just the root of it all.
I like what you said, Lina, about it's not always, of course we're here to talk about topics, so it's easy to draw a reference and think that a narrative becomes a story to fit, and it's something that looks back in time is created for nostalgic purposes. But one of our very talented other designers in Dubai, Abdallah Al-Mullah, I remember he said to me at one point that today, as designers, designers are solution-based, right? It's not just decoration, like we established earlier. But what he said to me really kind of changed my perspective of, we're not just looking back to nod back to cultural aspects or heritage. Things were created a certain way at a certain time for a reason. So what we're doing is looking back at that and using today's tools, today's fast-forward implementation to see how could we better that, but still addressing the problem they would have had at the time. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's true, context is everything. At the end of the day, what existed back then exists today for a very different reason. And we stress on the word vernacular a lot because people often associate the word vernacular with the past, but vernacular is the appropriate approach of any means in today's context. And the challenge of bringing the past into the present in the appropriate way, in the contextual way, is what matters the most, and that's what gives true meaning and sustainability to the work that we do.
Contextualized. I mean, what a lot of us are doing in the UAE now is also just looking at the rest of the world, really, since COVID, right? Everyone's trying to look at what do we have around us to avoid importing, exporting, where we don't have to.
But when we talk about positioning Dubai within the global sphere of design and architecture and creativity, how can these sort of localized approaches or this very ultra vernacular sort of approach of like using a material that is very specific or a use that is very specific to the everyday life sort of resonate with a bigger audience, or should they? I mean, are they sort of...
Well, I can speak on behalf of our studio. So, look, in that context, again, for us, the reason why we approached our entire studio, it was based on, we had actually initially, just to very briefly introduce, our first project was launched 2 years ago. So our studio was founded 2 years ago, and the first project we launched was thanks to Mette, actually at Downtown Design. At the time, Downtown Design was addressing sustainability, and we thought, okay, why don't we address that through natural material or address that through geoheritage? And what we started to realize over the years is that we're celebrating a material of the land of the UAE and the larger Arab region, but ultimately, there's a primal and universal quality of sand, much like there is if you go to the beach and you sink your feet into the sand, or if you're in the garden and you sink your fingers into the earth, or the same way if you look at our work as to how tactile it is, we get the same responses from people all of the time. And it draws a universal audience. And we even see it here at the fair as well. People always want to touch our work or interact with it, whether it's our work from the studio or my peers' work as well, because we're engaging a material that people will appreciate. Not just locals, but it's celebrated internationally, and it's something we're super proud of.
I think just the opportunity of being able to participate in an exhibition like this, it transforms the story behind introducing cultures to other cultures. And I think maybe it's not about having to force anybody to understand and relate to the narrative as much as you get to see how what's their perspective. Using local materials or trying to relate to the local history in the UAE can have its specific impact on the people living in the UAE, but people, when you start to kind of go internationally or globally and you start to understand how people perceive it and how they have their own personal stories, their own personal outlooks. So maybe in the Middle East, we relate to the palm tree so much because for us it's an icon of life. But not so much maybe in other countries, but still, the fact that you're trying to create something, you're taking something raw and turning it into something else, sometimes the process itself is what they relate to. And I think it's just a matter of dedicating yourself to the narrative and seeing how people will perceive it from their point of view is what's important and what will help dictate how you can move forward with your practice moving forward globally.
And speaking of downtown design and downtown design being this sort of incubator for also like new designers or emerging designers and providing a platform to showcase their works and positioning it in sort of a more international network. Mette, I was wondering if you can share a little bit, because you've also worked in other countries and traveled the world. So if you can also sort of share a bit about how Dubai's ecosystem of design compares to other big hubs, like more established or more like long time like parent.
I think in general, the way you can say, I don't like to draw comparisons because in general you can't really compare everything in different contexts. But I think in general what I like to highlight is that it's a fast-growing place. You know, the country is only 50-something, 52 and a half years old. So if you look at the pace that it's going, I mean, I moved there almost 8 years ago, and even the change I've seen is incredible. Since COVID, how much change we've seen, right? That's only 3 years and a half or 4. Downtown Design and Dubai Design Week, which is it's a joint program that we do. What we try to do with our partners, such as Dubai Culture, is we try and look at our ecosystem and not just what, as a country, as a city, and not just what do we have now, but where do we need to get. So if you were to compare to, I'm from Denmark, the design landscape, speaking Danish now, landscape in Denmark is quite well known for its aesthetics worldwide, which doesn't make it irrelevant in other countries because it looks Scandinavian. So just back to what you were saying, Lina. I think we are in the middle of, and probably already a couple of years past, really creating an identity and setting the scene for what will become future success for companies as well as small studios that we have here on the stage. What we try and do is looking at what does a 5-year-old need to want to get interested in creativity, for that to be a respectable job, for you to later want to start your studio. Anyone who's moving to the UAE wants to have their children in a cultural environment, wants to have them engaging with such programs through museums, etc., that Dubai Culture do a lot with, while they spend their time there, or if they don't stay forever. We look at all of these things to figure out how do we really cultivate an environment where design can thrive. All sorts of design, whether that's interior design or product design, materials, methodology. And of course, with that comes a global stage. So Dubai is fortunate to act as a hub for the wider region, but at the same time, what we try and do through Downtown Design is, while inviting brands, many of which are here, speakers, really cutting-edge profiles in the global design scene into the fair, is to also offer some sort of exchange and to make that a platform and a bridge for local talent and regional talent to sort of fast forward globally. So we try and do that bridge both ways, really.
If you just don't mind me adding a bit to what Mette was talking. So I think the ecosystem is very critical to kind of the growth and the community that, you know, the design industry has. And I think, you know, every city has a very unique probably ecosystem. It's, you know, formed by, you know, the private sector, government sector, but as well as, you know, individuals who are, you know, peers and, you know, provide kind of support to each other. And I think what Dubai has really tried to collaborate with, you know, many different people to ensure that there are the right type of platforms and right types of initiatives and programs, at Mette said, at every level. So considering design education, when it comes to formal degrees, establishing the Dubai Institute for Design and Innovation, for example. And then also looking at, having sustainable festivals and platforms. So at Dubai Culture, we also organize an annual festival called the Lekka Art and Design Festival. It's very much targeted towards enabling and empowering emerging talent, where we provide opportunities to many young, designers. I think a lot of the designers who, if you have the time to visit the UAE Design Oasis, actually started some of their early careers at this festival. And it's an opportunity for us to scout, but as well as highlight and showcase designers, giving the opportunities a lot of times to produce work, for the first time, specifically to the festival. And it really acts as their launching point, where it's done through very open system, where there's an application, and designers from across the UAE can apply across different sectors. I think we've even expanded. So this year it's actually taking place in the next few weeks, by the end of January, and it's celebrating its 13th edition. Last year, over 500 creatives participated. So it's really a beautiful celebration, that happens. But after that, this festival and events are quite, I think, momental. And the idea is, how do you sustain that throughout the year? And the idea of not just having events, once a year where designers can participate, but having a year-round program, a platform. So the idea is that we've taken a festival really to push that into having a sustainable ecosystem where you have year-round programs, grants, residencies, educational programs, as well as mentorship, showcasing. And I think that's kind of the collaboration between different organizations and amongst peers to really highlight and showcase the design.
Adding to what Khulood said and Mette, the UAE is a very young country, and Dubai is a very young city. But we can see this is a huge opportunity for designers and independent designers or small-scale studios to grow very quickly. Dubai is a very fast city. The UAE is a very fast country. So it's like an opportunity for individuals, small studios, to grow very quickly and to reach the international level in this very quick time. So for me, my studio is a very young studio, and I reached, alhamdulillah, here at Maison&Objet. It's like one of the biggest international festivals in the world. And as my colleagues, most of their studios are very young studios, but now they are reaching and they are competing with the international level of studios. So that's an opportunity for every designer or any studio to come and participate at Dubai fairs and the different festivals that we have in Dubai.
I want to second what you were saying, Khulood, is there's a lot of legwork behind the scenes that is crucial. You know this, we've been through it together. But it's crucial to really, we're not staging an exhibition every November that people can come and show and then go away. There's a lot that goes into from so many different parties. You're part of the Tashkil Tanween program as well, both of you actually, which is a full year mentorship. Because I don't think anyone is good at everything, right? So from setting up your studio, doing your accounting, having a website, running your marketing, for any company, everyone knows this, right? There's a lot that goes into that. And I think what all of the important bodies in the UAE care a lot about is, or have seen that and care about nurturing that, because otherwise you can make pretty things, but they won't go much further.
Sorry, just to add, I think one of the really important areas on a sustainable ecosystem is understanding that, creativity is, a profitable, business, and for us to ensure that these creative studios are actually, continue to grow. They think about their business as, enterprises. And one of the initiatives that we've thought about, and we have the Dubai Creative Economy Strategy. So we've actually looked at the creative industries in the UAE and Dubai specifically. How much do they contribute towards the city? And actually, in 2022, contributed to a bit over 4% of our city's GDP. And design actually is a bit over 51% of that. So design is a huge contributor to our economy, and it's as as well, that ecosystem that can ensure that, these businesses are employing designers, we're contributing to other industries such as manufacturing, such as retail. There's a larger ecosystem rather than just design, and I think it's that synergies between everyone and that, importance to how do we ensure that we're continuing to drive creative enterprise, kind of entrepreneurship. There are multiple initiatives that the city has launched. For example, the Elgo's Creative Zone, we have a competition towards creative entrepreneurs, an annual forum as well to ensure that, a lot of information and there's that connection between investors, designers, private sector, as well as service providers to create that synergy and platform to connect. So I think there's many, ecosystem could be, I think, a topic that we could just continue to go on, but we're just conscious on maybe talking about other areas as well. So I think it's really, really something that we know we've been really working hard in Dubai as well to grow.
No, it's incredible. And I mean, talking about this very fast-paced growth and this ecosystem that keeps kind of flourishing, I was wondering if you can all share a little bit about how you imagine the future and how you imagine your practices or your initiatives, your roles within Dubai evolving, and how do you see the city sort of growing further in the future?
I mean, if only I had a crystal ball.
How do you hope that it evolves?
Yeah, I guess it's a multifaceted answer. I think I've learned since living in the UAE that what you think will be, it's not that it's not going to be, it's probably going to be times 3 or 4. I imagine, especially right now, the market is really booming. Things are happening really fast right now. Obviously, a lot of properties, a lot of new hotels. There's a lot of new people moving to the UAE. It's become a very desirable destination for not just a holiday. So I think we can all agree we're at a moment right now, I'd say the past 6 months, the next 6 months maybe, where things can really change. On innovation, maybe the more usual way of using innovation, there's a lot happening there in the AI sphere and the whole digital, and that being implemented into the design industry. I see that really becoming a center for the world. It's already happening. For downtown design, yeah, we're expanding. We're always looking to do more programs. Quite reactive, it's not a good word, reactive, because it sounds like we're not prepared, but we're always looking at our surroundings and our ecosystems, because essentially that's what we're there for. So we're always looking at where are the holes and where can more be done, where can more be fast-tracked if we were to action. So it's a constant kind of journey to fill those.
I think for me, what I'm really excited to see for the future is we launched or we announced last year our new design sector strategy for 2033. So we really have, I think, ambitious vision, for the city of Dubai really to grow, to really be a global hub for design, but as well as to flourish and really support, our grassroots design initiatives in the city, and look at what that means on a global level as well. I think it's very timely that we have this conversation today. Perhaps this is one of the first times that as a government or as a city we've participated in an exhibition such as Maison&Objet, and participating as on a country level, and going to the global stage. And I think this is the first of many. So I think we have really pioneering, I think, designers with us today who have really set a high standard, I think, for those coming. And I really hope it does share what design means from our country and city, and inspires the rest of the world. And I think it's something that we see design as a global practice and platform, and it's just about how do we connect each other in such a kind of fast-moving world as well.
Yeah, it really is that, and I say this from my own experience. First of all, the work that they both do stands as a testament to how it's not just about how successfully Dubai has evolved, but it's about how quickly Dubai has evolved. And truly, it's because there's a culture in Dubai which is very difficult to explain, but it's not a competitive market. Dubai is a collaborative market. It's so healthy because in any way, and to also build on what Mette said, you can never predict what the next step is, because 2 or 3 design entities or individual designers, whether established or emerging, will approach you, and what you thought you would never achieve manages to happen. and everybody has the go-getter mentality because they're supported. The platforms and the ecosystem make it happen. So it really is an incredible place to be because things happen very, very effortlessly because of that collaborative mindset, and it's something that they've nurtured very successfully.
I think all of the ecosystems and supportive programs that we have in Dubai, from Dubai Cultures and Dubai Culture and other entities, they act as a catalyst to what we do. And I think most, like Elias was saying, like the mentality in the UAE in general is always this question of what's next. And I think everybody thinks in this manner, and this is what helps everyone to move forward. We're not just maybe looked at as someone who's always moving very fast, but we love efficiency, you know, and I think this is a word that people love to use and people love to think about and people love to work in this way, where we love to make the best of our time, the best of our resources, the most efficient we can do with every single resource we have. And I think this is like, it stands as a testament to Dubai Culture and to downtown design, is that how can they use the resources they have, which is designers or artists in the UAE, to the best of their capabilities and to what they can do above and beyond. So again, it always goes back to that question of what's next. And this is not something that you can maybe understand while you're sitting here or predict, but it's always a mentality that you can live with and outperform yourself every year. And
not very often do you hear, oh no, we can't do that. It's always, let's figure out how to do that, let's do it.
You never, it's not often, you never hear that in Dubai. It's out of, there's no plan B, it's always plan A.
Anything to add before we open the floor to questions?
Yeah, I totally agree with what they said. And in Dubai, the community, the design community and the other communities are very collaborative. Everyone wants to help each other. Maybe in different, I don't know, in different communities, maybe they see the other studios like as competitors, but here in Dubai I believe that everyone sees that even if they do this similar things, everyone wants to help each other, and everyone wants the other like studio or firm to grow, to learn more. And even the manufacturers, there are like how Dubai is growing really fast. Even the manufacturers, if you go 2 years ago or 3 years ago to like certain manufacturers, you will tell them something to do, they won't know it, but now they know and they will tell you like do this, and you know, like even the manufacturing system, it's like this manufacturer will tell you something, he will tell you go to that manufacturer to help you with that certain thing. So it's like even the manufacturing is like very collaborative, the designers, the authorities, and yeah.
No, I just wanted to say, and back to the question about the future, the manufacturing is actually, it's really changing, right? So I think so much more is going to happen in that field of being homegrown at a more industrial level as well.
And I think it's always the understanding or the belief that, like Elias was saying, that they don't really say no. It's always because the fabricators are trying to learn from you just as much as you're trying to learn from them. And that's the community that has been created on its own in the UAE and in Dubai, that designers are working together, fabricators are working together, and it's a kind of a cross-cultural society or community that we've built by always trying to help out each other in the best way that we can.
Now, I have to say I visited Dubai Design Week last year, and I was so impressed with how basically like downtown design or Al Circle sort of functions like this big incubator, like sort of a collective more than just like individual practices. And I was very, very impressed by that. So great job.
We're one big happy family.
Yes, it's really like this. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
We have some time for questions if anybody wants to. Yes?
Hello. Oh, always weird to hear your voice. So first of all, thank you. That was very interesting and inspiring. I was wondering about the local market and if the final clients, if you sense that there's a preference for what was designed in Dubai and made in the UAE in general. I come from a country where for a long time there was a general preference for whatever was made abroad, you know? And I was wondering if there was this culture in the UAE, or if it has changed, or what's the situation now?
I think it definitely has changed, especially since COVID. I think all countries around the world have tried to become a little bit more self-sufficient. You're always intrigued by anything that you haven't seen around you or you're not familiar with, and that's kind of what keeps, you know, these cross-cultural relationships alive. But definitely there's a sense of self-sufficiency in the UAE that we have so much to work with already, that we still have an outlook for what's going on outside, but we're also still able to kind of revolutionize what already we have in the UAE as a whole.
And I think, you know, Dubai is very global as a city and as a retail hub. It, you know, represents maybe one of the larger number of kind of global retail brands. So of course, you know, as one of the major kind of cities, you know, of the capitals, there is that appetite for an international kind of a product. But I think we've seen over the past few years, you know, an increased appetite for locally made, locally produced, locally relevant as well. But I think, you know, clients are quite broad, and, you know, some clients have maybe more international appeal, but we've seen a lot more brands and clients wanting to adapt and speak to a more regional kind of audience. So understanding, and I think that's something that, you know, brands are also understanding, rather than, you know, just thinking of, you know, an audience as one type of audience, understanding the requirements or needs for, you know, different regional audiences, and, you know, having more of an engagement with them. And I think the tool to engagement is really connecting on values, connecting on stories. And I think that's where we've seen even examples of, you know, global brands represented in Dubai, but working with local designers on collaborations. And because I think a local insight and context really adds so much value and storytelling, and, you know, I think localizes a lot of things that might seem foreign. You know, and I think a lot of, you know, on a luxury level, I think perhaps the, you know, customers are looking for more personalization and looking for more, you know, something which can be customized. And I think that's also a trend that we've seen, appreciating more local design practice.
Yeah, that is true. And I think it happens so successfully as well because, as you said, international appeal also has to meet international standards. And as you see the quality of work exponentially increase, it becomes so much more worthy to invest, and I think anybody in the audience can agree with that. It's always so much more worthy to invest in something from your land that celebrates your culture, whether it's geo, whether it's whatever the history may be. So being able to really, really bank on that makes a much bigger impact.
Yeah, definitely fabrication, the rise in quality makes a massive difference there. And there are still some things that you will see it actually ends up potentially more efficient price-wise to get manufactured abroad and then import, which is obviously a bit sad. So that's what we're all working to try and avoid. There's some materials, I mean, you'll know with glass, steel, but it's changing very quickly, right? But if we looked at 10 years ago, locally made, now it's locally made high quality. It's that association.
Yeah, and what's also really interesting too is that we do often compare the standard of our work to international standards. And much like the preserved artistry in Europe of carving marble or sculpting stone or carpentry in its very fine, intricate details, I would say at the very least our 3 studios try to do that with our own material, in our own language, but again, meeting international standards because we understand that international appeal is important and it has to exist.
I think one of the biggest challenges when you're trying to fabricate a new material or work with a new material outside of your comfort zone is that not only are you trying to create something with international standards, but again, you're developing a new set of rules for your practice, because while everyone knows now how Michelangelo did it or Bernini did it, maybe they don't know how to use quicksand, or they don't know how to use PlyPalm, or they don't know how to work with metal so much in the way that Majid maybe does. And I think you'd start developing your own set of rules and set of methods, and then you create a different rule for quality in general that still meets expectations, but maybe surpasses them as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Anybody else?
Clearly, I'm not a young artist, but if you were a young artist from Europe, would it be interesting to go and base yourself in Dubai? And would you get the support there as a young artist?
Where do you begin?
Didn't hear the question.
If you were from Europe and you were a young artist and you thought, okay, Dubai sounds like it's a very nurturing, creative community, would you be supported if you went and based yourself
Of course.
over there?
I think, the designers represented are, I think Elias comes from how often did you move? 2 years ago?
2 years
Dubai?
ago from Lebanon, actually, yeah.
And I think for us, Dubai is a very global city, which, acceptance of all nationalities and, the opportunities are open to, artists from all nationalities coming to Dubai looking for opportunities. There's many open calls, festivals, even in the design week, ways to participate, to get support. And I think the city itself is also looking at different ways. So we've looked at, even a cultural visa, 10-year visa in order to support talents who want to look at Dubai as being a hub for them to grow their practice. We understand there's lots of challenges with being kind of young talent, and of course, living in a space, affordability. Those are all factors that need to be considered. So it's not just, obviously artistic opportunities, but it's also making sure that, they can really live in that space and benefit from what Dubai has to offer. So of course, I think, definitely, whether they're from Europe or anywhere else in the world, I think Dubai is an open city for all talents.
I think what's quite special, I've lived different places before moving to Dubai, and it's the first time I've moved somewhere where so many people are from somewhere else, so everyone can kind of recognize what it's like to be new, as opposed to be in the 5% of foreigners. And when I lived in Paris, and like my colleague Lina said yesterday, you used the word melting pot earlier. We are a bit of a salad, right? A bit of a mix of things, and we all collaborate on our different, take in cultures, learn about each other, and I think it sounds all like kumbaya now, but I think that's very special. People are coming from all over the world now to live in Dubai, and it's great salad.
Thank you all so much. Fortunately, we're out of time, but it's been super interesting, and thank you for being here, and thank you for listening.